I never thought I'd be the one standing at my own front door, frozen in disbelief. After everything, the surgeries, the rehab, the countless nights I spent wondering if I'd ever walk normally again, there she was, my mother, the woman who told everyone I was still in recovery while secretly believing I'd never recover at all. Hi, I'm Meredith. 6 months ago, I was in a car accident that shattered my leg in 3 places. The doctors said full recovery would take a year, minimum. My mother said it would take a miracle. Well, I'm not big on waiting, and I've never believed in miracles. I believe in proving people wrong. What my mother didn't know when she showed up unannounced that day was that I'd been walking without assistance for weeks. What I didn't know was that she'd been planning something behind my back, something that would expose 30 years of lies and change our family forever. If you've ever been underestimated, written off, or spoken about like you weren't in the room, this story might feel familiar. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button, because trust me, you'll want to see how this ends. Growing up in suburban Connecticut, I was always the Hayes girl who couldn't quite keep up. My mother, Diana, made sure everyone knew it. A former beauty queen turned real estate mogul, she built her empire on perfection and appearances. My father left when I was 4, couldn't handle her impossibly high standards, I guess. It was just Mom, me, and my older brother Tyler, who somehow always managed to meet her expectations. Our Thanksgiving dinners were showcases for the neighbors, our Christmas cards professionally photographed, our summer vacations at Martha's Vineyard carefully documented on social media. Behind that perfect facade was a household ruled by quiet judgment and conditional love. I remember my 8th grade graduation. I'd practiced my valedictorian speech for weeks, determined to make Mom proud. The night before, she watched me rehearse, then suggested I wear a blazer to hide my shoulders. When I asked what was wrong with my shoulders, she simply said, "Nothing, if you don't mind looking exactly like your father's side of the family." I gave that speech in a blazer that was too hot for June in New England, sweating under the lights while she smiled approvingly from the audience. Then there was my junior prom. Tyler had been prom king 3 years earlier. It runs in the family, Mom had assured me, as if popularity was genetic. When I wasn't even nominated for the court, she told everyone I'd opted out to focus on academics. At the after-party, when someone mentioned it, she laughed and said, "Meredith was always the practical one. Pretty isn't her currency." I was standing right beside her. Despite everything, I tried to win her approval. I graduated summa cum laude from Boston University, got my MBA, landed a job at a top consulting firm in New York. For my 30th birthday last year, Mom threw a surprise party at her country club. Standing before everyone, her friends mostly, she raised a toast. To Meredith, who proves that determination can take you places that natural talent can't. The room laughed. I smiled through it. Then came the accident. Black ice on the FDR Drive, a taxi that couldn't stop in time. 3 surgeries later, the doctors were cautiously optimistic, but Mom had already decided my fate. She converted my childhood bedroom into what she called my recovery suite, told her friends I'd probably be dependent for years. She even joined a support group for parents of disabled children and became the star member, sharing her journey of acceptance while I was still in the hospital, determined to walk again. What she didn't know was that I'd been documenting everything. Her comments to nurses when she thought I was asleep, her phone calls to relatives expressing doubts about my recovery, her social media posts positioning herself as the selfless mother caring for her challenged daughter. I had recordings, screenshots, a digital trail of her performative concern. It was my insurance policy, my secret weapon. I never planned to use it. But then came the grand gesture. 3 months into my recovery, while I was still using a walker but making progress every day, Mom announced she was organizing a charity gala, the Diana Hayes Foundation for Spinal Rehabilitation. She'd already filed the paperwork, designed the logo, booked the venue at the Greenwich Country Club. I would be the guest of honor, she said, the inspiration. What she meant was I would be the prop, the visual aid for her newest philanthropic identity. The invitations featured a photo of me in the hospital, unconscious, tubes everywhere. She hadn't asked permission. I moved back to my apartment in New York the next day, against medical advice. Mom called it reckless and ungrateful. I called it survival. I threw myself into physical therapy, working twice as hard, pushing through pain until my therapist worried I was going too fast. Every night, I'd collapse into bed, exhausted but satisfied as I felt strength returning to my legs. I told Mom I was managing, but kept the details vague. Let her think I was still struggling. Let her plan her gala with me as the damaged centerpiece. I had my own plans. What I didn't expect was the secret she'd been keeping all these years, a secret that would make my recordings seem trivial by comparison, a secret that would change everything about how I understood my family, my childhood, and myself. The Diana Hayes Foundation for Spinal Rehabilitation Gala was set for June 15th, exactly 6 months after my accident. By early May, I was walking without assistance, though I still had a slight limp when tired. Mom didn't know this. Our conversations had become perfunctory. She'd call with updates about the gala. I'd pretend to be making small progress, and we'd end with her reminding me how brave I was being. What she really meant was how useful my struggle was to her narrative. A week before the gala, Mom called with wonderful news. Senator Whitman would be attending. Yes, that Senator Whitman, her old friend from college whose husband now represented Connecticut. The local press would cover the event. There would be a video presentation about my journey, and Mom had taken the liberty of gathering footage from my hospital stay. "You don't have to say much," she assured me. "Just look determined and grateful. I'll handle the rest." I hung up and made a decision. I wasn't going to be her prop. I would attend the gala, but on my terms. I booked an appointment at Bergdorf's and bought a backless red gown that showed every inch of my recovered strength. I spent hours with a physical therapist perfecting my walk. No one at this gala would see me limp. The day before the event, Tyler called. He hadn't been around much during my recovery. His investment banking job in Chicago kept him conveniently busy, but he'd always been Mom's favorite, her confidant. "Just checking that you're ready for tomorrow," he said, his voice oddly tense. "More ready than Mom expects," I replied. There was a pause. Don't do anything impulsive, okay? This foundation means a lot to Mom." "Does it? Or does it mean a lot to her image?" He sighed. "You've always been so hard on her. She's trying to make something good come from your accident." "My accident happened to me, Tyler, not to her. Just remember there will be important people there. The senator, her husband, donors. This isn't just about you and Mom." Something in his tone made me suspicious. "What aren't you telling me?" "Nothing. I just know how you two get. Someone always ends up hurt." After we hung up, I felt uneasy. Tyler never called just to check in. Something was happening behind the scenes, something beyond Mom's usual theatrics. The morning of the gala, I received a delivery at my apartment. It was a wheelchair with a note from Mom. "For tonight. Dr. Simmons said you shouldn't overexert yourself. The red carpet is quite long." I texted back, "Won't need it, but thanks." She replied instantly, "Don't be difficult, Meredith. Everyone's expecting to see you still in recovery." Everyone except me, apparently. I arrived at the Greenwich Country Club at 6:30 p.m., half an hour before the event was scheduled to begin. I hired a car service rather than letting Mom send her driver, as she'd offered. I wanted to control the timing, to make my entrance when it would have maximum impact. The venue was transformed into what I can only describe as a shrine to maternal sacrifice. Photos of Mom and me lined the entryway, most taken during my hospital stay, none with my permission. Posters detailed the Foundation's mission to support families affected by spinal injuries, with quotes from Mom about her journey of acceptance. My medical records, simplified and sanitized, were displayed on easels like art pieces. I felt sick, but I steadied myself. This wasn't just about Mom's exploitation of my injury anymore. I sensed there was something bigger at stake. Senator Whitman arrived early too, accompanied by her husband and their daughter Ashley, who'd been a year ahead of me in high school. Ashley looked uncomfortable when she saw me, avoiding eye contact in a way that seemed deliberate. "Meredith," the senator gushed, embracing me carefully as if I might break. "Your mother is an inspiration." Turning personal tragedy into public service? That's the Hayes women for you. Actually, walking without assistance after being told I never would, that's the Hayes women for you, I replied, standing perfectly straight. Her smile faltered. Yes, well, your mother mentioned you were making remarkable progress. Still, pace yourself tonight. There's no shame in using assistance. Before I could respond, Mom swept in, resplendent in designer blue. She froze momentarily when she saw me standing unassisted in my red gown, then recovered with practiced grace. "Meredith, you should have waited for me at the entrance." She kissed my cheek, whispering, "Where's the wheelchair?" "I don't need it," I said, clearly. "Don't be stubborn," she hissed, still smiling for the senator. "We have a presentation about your recovery journey. It won't make sense if you're walking around like nothing happened." Nothing happened. I broke my leg in 3 places. I had 3 surgeries. I spent months in rehab. Something definitely happened, Mom. What didn't happen was me giving you permission to build a foundation on my injury. The senator cleared her throat. "I'll just give you 2 a moment," she said, guiding her family away. Mom's smile vanished. "Do not make a scene, Meredith. Not tonight. There's too much at stake." "Like what? Your social standing? Your new identity as Mother Teresa?" Something flickered in her eyes. Fear, I realized. Not anger, not annoyance, but genuine fear. "There are things you don't understand," she said quietly. "Then explain them to me. Later. Right now, we have guests arriving." And indeed, the hall was filling with Connecticut's elite, old money families, politicians, celebrities with vacation homes in the area, all here to witness Diana Hayes' magnificent charitable pivot, all expecting to see me broken and brave, a testament to my mother's nurturing power. The senator cleared her throat. "I'll just give you 2 a moment," she said, guiding her family away. Mom's smile vanished. "Do not make a scene, Meredith. Not tonight. There's too much at stake." "Like what? Your social standing? Your new identity as Mother Teresa?" Something flickered in her eyes. Fear, I realized. Not anger, not annoyance, but genuine fear. "There are things you don't understand," she said quietly. "Then explain them to me." Later. Right now, we have guests arriving. And indeed, the hall was filling with Connecticut's elite, old money families, politicians, celebrities with vacation homes in the area, all here to witness Diana Hayes' magnificent charitable pivot, all expecting to see me broken and brave, a testament to my mother's nurturing power. As we moved toward the main ballroom, I noticed Ashley Whitman watching us intently. When our eyes met, she didn't look away this time. Instead, she mouthed what looked like, "I'm sorry." That's when I knew. Whatever secret Mom was keeping, Ashley was part of it. And tonight, one way or another, that secret was coming out. The ballroom glittered with wealth and influence, crystal chandeliers, floral arrangements worth more than my monthly rent, waiters circulating with champagne. At the front stood a podium flanked by 2 large screens. The program listed my mother as the main speaker, followed by a special video presentation, and then remarks from Senator Whitman. Mom directed me to a table near the front, where Tyler was already seated with his girlfriend, a pharmaceutical executive he'd been dating for 6 months. He looked tense, eyes darting between Mom and me. "You look great, Mur," he said, the compliment sounding forced. "Thanks. Turns out determination can take you places, even without natural talent." I repeated Mom's birthday toast with just enough edge that he winced. Dinner was a blur of fake smiles and small talk. Throughout the meal, I noticed Ashley Whitman watching our table. Twice, she seemed about to approach, only to be subtly intercepted by her mother. The tension was building, though only a few of us seemed aware of it. After dessert, Mom took the stage. She was magnificent, I'll give her that. Poised, articulate, moving effortlessly between vulnerability and strength as she described the harrowing journey of watching her daughter struggle. She talked about nights spent at my hospital bedside, there were 3 total, about rearranging her life to become my caretaker. She hired a nurse. About the moment she realized my tragedy could help others, conveniently timed with Senator Whitman's healthcare initiative. "When life breaks us," she said, her voice catching perfectly, "we have 2 choices: stay broken or rebuild something beautiful from the pieces. The Diana Hayes Foundation represents my choice, our family's choice." The audience was captivated. I felt ill. "Before I continue," Mom said, "I'd like to acknowledge some special guests. Senator Elizabeth Whitman and her husband Robert have been tremendous supporters of this initiative. Their daughter Ashley," her voice faltered slightly, "has also been an invaluable advisor." Ashley stared at her plate. Senator Whitman nodded graciously. Robert Whitman checked his watch. "And now," Mom continued, "I'd like to share a video that captures my daughter Meredith's journey, our family's journey, these past 6 months." The lights dimmed. The screens flickered to life. What followed was the most grotesque misrepresentation of my experience I could have imagined. Footage of me unconscious in the hospital set to inspirational music. Mom speaking to doctors, looking concerned. Mom helping me into her car the day I left rehab, the only day she came. Me struggling with a walker, filmed without my knowledge through what must have been my apartment window. The final sequence showed Mom at a gala planning meeting, explaining tearfully how this foundation would give meaning to Meredith's suffering. The video ended with white text on a black screen. "With your help, we can turn tragedy into triumph." The applause was thunderous. I remained seated, shaking with rage. Mom returned to the microphone. "And now, I'd like to introduce the inspiration for this foundation, my daughter, Meredith Hayes." I hadn't been told I would be speaking. This was a setup. She wanted to showcase me, to have me validate her narrative. I rose slowly, deliberately, and walked to the stage without a hint of a limp. The murmurs were immediate. I'd been presented as someone still deep in recovery, yet here I was, walking normally in 4-inch heels and a backless gown. Mom's smile tightened as she handed me the microphone, whispering, "Keep it brief and grateful." I looked out at the sea of expectant faces. Near the back, Ashley Whitman stood up and moved toward the exit. Our eyes met, and in that moment, I made my decision. "Thank you, Mom, for that creative interpretation of my recovery," I began. It's true that 6 months ago I suffered a serious injury. What's also true is that I've been walking unassisted for weeks now, information my mother chose to omit because it didn't fit her preferred narrative. The room went silent. Mom tried to reach for the microphone, but I stepped away. I'm not here tonight to undermine the concept of helping those with spinal injuries. That's a worthy cause. I'm here to reclaim my story, which has been co-opted without my consent. But as long as we're talking about consent and truth, I turned to where Ashley had paused by the door. Perhaps we should address the real secret my mother's been keeping, the one involving the Whitman family. Mom lunged for the microphone. Meredith is still affected by her medication. This is inappropriate. Is it inappropriate, Mom? Or is it just inconvenient? Like the truth about why Dad really left, about the settlement you received, about what really happened to Ashley Whitman this summer before senior year. The senator stood abruptly. Her husband put a restraining hand on her arm. Ashley, pale but resolute, walked back toward the stage. Robert Whitman had an affair with my mother 20 years ago, I said clearly. An affair that resulted in a pregnancy that was terminated as part of a financial arrangement between the Hayes and Whitman families. I have the documents. I found them last week when I was looking for my insurance papers in Mom's home office. Gasps filled the room. Mom stood frozen, her careful facade crumbling. But that's not all, I continued, looking directly at Ashley. Something happened to you the summer before our senior year. Something that involved my mother and your father. Something that resulted in another settlement, another cover-up. Ashley nodded, tears streaming down her face. He tried with me, too, she said, voice breaking. Your mother knew. She helped convince my mother it would ruin my father's career if I spoke up. They paid for my silence. They've been paying ever since. The room erupted in chaos. Senator Whitman collapsed into her chair. Robert Whitman headed for the exit. My mother stood paralyzed, her carefully constructed world disintegrating around her. I placed the microphone on the podium and walked off the stage, past Tyler's shocked face, past the confused donors and guests, past the reporters frantically taking notes. Ashley fell into step beside me. I'm sorry, she whispered. I wanted to tell you for years. You have nothing to apologize for, I replied, pushing open the doors to the cool June night. Nothing at all. Behind us, my mother's voice rose in desperation, trying to regain control of a situation far beyond her management. But I didn't look back. For the first time in my life, I was walking away from her on my own terms, on my own 2 feet. The fallout was immediate and far-reaching. By midnight, the story had hit social media. By morning, it was in the national news. Not just my mother's exploitation of my injury, but the decades of corruption and cover-ups involving the Whitman family. Robert Whitman resigned from the Senate by week's end. The Diana Hayes Foundation was dissolved before it officially launched. My mother retreated to her house in Greenwich, not answering calls or emails. I didn't go home that night. Ashley and I checked into a hotel in the city, ordered room service, and talked until dawn. She told me everything. How Robert Whitman had preyed on her when she was 17, how my mother had discovered it but used the information as leverage rather than protection, how the 2 families had been locked in a toxic symbiosis of secrets and power ever since. The settlement documents I'd found were just the tip of the iceberg. Your mom threatened to expose my dad if he didn't support certain development projects, Ashley explained. And my mother threatened to reveal your mom's affair if she ever spoke about what happened to me. Everyone protecting everyone except the people who needed protection. I thought about Tyler's warning call, his nervous behavior at the gala. Did my brother know? Ashley hesitated. He found out a few years ago. Your mom swore him to secrecy, told him it would destroy the family if it came out. That explained why Tyler had grown increasingly distant, why he'd moved to Chicago despite his close relationship with Mom. He couldn't bear the weight of the secret, but he couldn't bring himself to expose it either. The next morning, Tyler called. "Jesus, Mur, why didn't you tell me you knew?" "Why didn't you tell me when you found out?" I countered. His silence was answer enough. "I'm not angry at you," I said, surprised to find it was true. "Mom made us both into what she needed us to be. You were the loyal son. I was the struggling daughter. Neither role was real." "What happens now?" he asked. "I don't know, but I'm done performing for her approval." In the days that followed, I received 2 unexpected visitors. The first was my father, who I hadn't seen in 5 years. He arrived at my apartment looking older than his 57 years, carrying a box of old photos and letters. "I should have fought harder for custody," he said simply. "I let her convince me you were better off with her stability, her money. I was weak." "You were up against a master manipulator," I replied. We spent the afternoon looking through his box of memories, evidence of a father who'd never truly abandoned me, just been systematically pushed out. He'd sent birthday cards that never reached me, called on holidays only to be told I was busy. The narrative of my absent father was just another of my mother's carefully constructed fictions. The second visitor was more surprising, Senator Elizabeth Whitman. She sat rigidly on my couch, her once imposing presence diminished by scandal and shame. "I didn't know about your mother's involvement until recently," she said. "About the manipulation, the threats. I knew about Robert's proclivities. I chose my career over my daughter's well-being. I can never atone for that. I thought about all the women who had been sacrificed for men's careers, all the daughters who had been taught their pain was less important than family reputation. You can start by supporting Ashley now," I said, "publicly and privately. No more secrets." She nodded, tears finally breaking through her composed facade. "Ashley told me you two have been talking, that you're helping her find a therapist." "We're helping each other," I corrected. And we were. Ashley and I had formed an unlikely alliance, survivors of the same toxic environment from different angles. She had resources and connections, I had determination and clarity. Together, we started reaching out to other women who had been silenced by powerful families in Connecticut, creating a real support network, not the performative charity my mother had envisioned. 3 weeks after the gala, my mother finally requested a meeting. We met at a neutral location, a private room at the Yale Club in Manhattan. She looked older, stripped of her usual perfect makeup and designer clothes. For the first time, I could see the insecure beauty queen beneath the polished exterior. "You've destroyed everything I built," she said without preamble. "You built it on lies," I replied. "On my injury, on Ashley's trauma, on corruption and silence. I was protecting you, protecting our family name, our position. No, Mom, you were protecting yourself, your image, your relationships with powerful people." She stared out the window, unable to meet my eyes. "What do you want from me now? Money? A public apology?" "I want nothing from you. That's what you never understood. I never wanted your social connections, or your approval, or your carefully curated life. I just wanted a mother who saw me, really saw me, and loved me anyway." "I do love you," she whispered. "Maybe, but not enough to let me be human, not enough to let me fail, or struggle, or be imperfect." We sat in silence for several minutes. Finally, she asked, "Will you ever forgive me?" It was the first genuine question she'd ever asked me. The first time she'd acknowledged my autonomy, my right to make a decision that affected her. "I don't know," I answered honestly. "That's not something I can promise right now." When we parted, there was no tearful reconciliation, no dramatic forgiveness, just two women acknowledging the broken pieces between them, neither sure if repair was possible or even desirable. The Diana Hayes Foundation never materialized, but something better emerged from its ashes. Ashley and I launched the Truth Project, a nonprofit providing legal and psychological support to survivors of sexual misconduct and exploitation. Tyler, seeking his own redemption, became our financial advisor, helping secure funding and manage operations. My father reconnected with his side of the family. Relatives I'd been told wanted nothing to do with me. And I discovered a network of aunts, uncles, and cousins eager to know the real Meredith Hayes. As for my recovery, it continued in ways both physical and emotional. My limp eventually disappeared completely. The nightmares about the accident faded. I started dating again, cautiously at first, then with growing confidence. I even adopted a rescue dog, something Mom had never allowed when I was growing up. 6 months after the gala, exactly 1 year after my accident, I received a small package from my mother. Inside was a silver frame containing a photo I'd never seen before. Me at about 3 years old, laughing wildly as I jumped in rain puddles, mud splattered up to my knees. On the back, in my mother's elegant handwriting, "You were always stronger than I wanted you to be." It wasn't an apology, it wasn't reconciliation, but it was, perhaps, the beginning of truth. And after a lifetime of perfectly composed lies, truth was the only foundation worth building on. 1 year after exposing the truth at that gala, I stand at a different threshold. Not frozen this time, but moving forward with purpose. The scars on my leg have faded to thin silver lines, barely visible unless you know where to look. The other scars, the invisible ones, from years of emotional manipulation, take longer to heal. But they're fading too. My relationship with my mother remains complicated. We speak occasionally, carefully navigating the new terrain between us. She's in therapy now, her own choice, not court-mandated like Robert Whitman's. I don't know if we'll ever be close, but we're learning to be honest, and that's something neither of us had much practice with before. The Truth Project has helped over 200 women come forward with their stories. Ashley runs it full-time now, her natural leadership no longer overshadowed by her family's expectations. I serve on the board while continuing my consulting career, this time on my terms, with boundaries I never knew how to set before. Sometimes people ask if I regret that night, if I wish I'd kept the secrets buried and let my mother have her foundation. I tell them that foundations built on lies eventually collapse, taking innocent people down with them. Real strength isn't in maintaining perfect appearances, it's in having the courage to stand in your truth, even when that truth is messy and uncomfortable. If you're watching this and something in my story resonates with you, know that you're not alone. Whether you're recovering from physical trauma, emotional abuse, or the quiet devastation of being made to feel less than, your journey matters. Your voice matters. And you are stronger than anyone wants you to be. If this story helped you in any way, please like and subscribe. Each week, I share conversations with survivors who are reclaiming their narratives. And remember, recovery isn't just about getting back to who you were before. It's about discovering who you can become after.